But if you have other questions, feel free to interrupt. And so what we're going to do for this is we're just going to use a Google form. So I'm just going to go over to forms.google.com, and it's going to look like this. You can see I've done versions of this in the past. So those are old examples. And yeah, I assume that everybody has a Google account. If you don't have a Google account, you can make one for free. If you need help with that, let me know. We can go over it. If for some reason you don't want to do that, we could go over other ways to collect feedback. But what I'm going to do is just create a new blank form. And I'll just go over a few things that we can do and then how to share the form. So I'm not really going to worry too much about styling. So in the form here, I can edit all these different fields, and then this menu on the right gives me the ability to add new components to the form. And so I'm going to start there, and then I'll go over how to distribute it. So for the title, I'm going to say user testing for my game, and I'll put fall 2022 here. You can obviously put the title of your game if you have a name for it. If you don't, you can put whatever you makes sense here. And then for the form description, I'll just put a little note here, please test my game and let me know what you think. And then it's a good idea to have a link to the game here in case somebody sends them the form and they're like, where is this game? What are you talking about? So most likely they'll get the game from the itch link and then they'll go to the form. But if for some reason they go to the form first, they'll be able to find the game. So let me find my game. Okay, here's my game from this year. So I'm just going to copy this link and go back here, and I'll say link game, and then I'll just click on the link button and paste that in there. So that way they'll be able to access it if they need to. And so that's the top of the form. I can always preview the form if I want to see what it looks like. So this looks pretty good so far. So I'm going to close this and go back to editing. So for my first question, for me, I'm just going to ask how long the game was played for. So this is an example of quantitative feedback. It'll give me a number that I can compare from different responses. So I'm going to say, how long did you play the game? And so I can either give them a range or I can give them choices. There's a few different options in here. I'm going to choose linear scale so that they can just choose, or no, actually for this one, I want to do multiple choice. So for linear scale, that's better for rating stuff. But for this one, there's going to be options that don't really fit into a linear scale. So I'm going to say less than 5 minutes. And again, this is specific to your game. Some games take 10 minutes to play. Some games take, 60 hours. So, we want to be realistic about, these games are not probably going to be super long gameplay times. So then I'll say 5 to 10 minutes. And then I'll say more than 10 minutes. So I don't think it'll take longer than 10 minutes to play my game, but if it does, I'll be able to capture that. And so let's follow this question up with whether they finish the game or not. And we only have one level in the game now, but we can sort of that's still a good question if they finish the level, and then we can also use this form in the future when we have built out more of the game. So I'll say, did you get to the end? And this is just like a yes no question. So I guess it's a multiple choice, yes or no. And we could follow that up with another question like, if not, why not? And so that could just be a short answer, or we could do a long answer. And so then I want to do like a quantitative, I want to do like a difficulty rating. So say rate the difficulty of the game. And so you can see that Google already put in like a linear scale here. So I guess they saw that I said rate, and they figured I want a linear scale. So I can set the bounds of the scale 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. So I'll just leave it 1 to 5, and I'll say easy on one end and difficult, or let's just say hard on the other side. And if you want to change the order of these, you can see when I hover over the different parts of the form, this little like 6 dots comes up. And so I can move these around if you get them out of order. You can also just delete them if you want to. There's like a trash can right here. You can also duplicate if you want to make the same type of question. So I'm just going to add one more question here, which will be a long response. I'll say, tell me, or I'll just say something open-ended. So what was your experience of the game? So this is just kind of an open-ended question to get them to just talk about the game and maybe capture some things that I wasn't aware of or hadn't thought about. So those are just a few examples. I'm having kind of a hard time reordering this. Okay, so let's preview this again. So again, you can add your own questions. You can reuse these if you want to. Just add, between 5 and 10 questions. So then once we have this, we want to add it to our itch page so people can use it from there. And so to get a link for this, I can go to send, and I can send it to people specifically via their email, but I can also create a link here. So I'm just going to go to this link page, and I'm going to copy this link. And then I can send it to people, or I can go to itch and add it in here. So I'm going to go to my itch page and go to edit. And I'm going to add this into the description. So I'm going to scroll down a bit. And before all my sound references, I'm going to say, please fill out my gameplay user testing form after you play. And then I'll just put a little link here. It's kind of a long link, so let's actually just make this whole thing a link. So I'm going to select all that text, insert the link here. I'll click open link in a new tab so they can go back to the game if they want to. And then I'll save this and go to view page. And there we go. So we can see, please fill out my gameplay user testing form. And that brings me here. So now we've got the form. We can send the game to people, and they can click on the form and then give you some feedback. I'm going to go through actually posting about the feedback now as well, since this doesn't take that much time. We have a good amount of time left in class. So I'm just going to go over this. So I'm going to make some fake responses and then show you guys how to publish the responses. So I'm going to copy this link and go here. I wonder if it'll let me submit. Okay, so I'm just going to make some fake responses. So I'll say I played for less than 5 minutes, got to the end. It was a 4 difficulty. I'll say it was really fun. Hopefully your users will give you more interesting feedback than this, but I'm just going to fill out some fake data so we can see what it looks like. So let's just fill out a few more. Okay. Let's do this one. It's easy. Okay, so not super realistic, but just as some examples. So once somebody fills out your form, you'll get some responses. And the nice thing about the way that this looks in Google is that they actually show you some graphs, like they generate these graphs for you. And so you can see how long did you play the game for. There's 3 responses, and we can see what those responses were. And if I copy this, it's actually going to copy this like chart to a clipboard, and I can save this as an image, which I'll post on my OpenLab post in a second. So did you get to the end? 2 out of 3 got to the end, so that's pretty good. Nobody wrote if not, why not? That's okay. And then difficulty, this was pretty spread across. So, you know, depending on what you think about how difficult you want your game to be, you might want to change things based on this. And then you get some text feedback. So, you know, you can just read that. So I've got some responses, and so now I want to talk about those responses. And so this is the last part, is that we're just going to make an OpenLab post where we show the responses, and then we're going to write about them a little bit. So I'm going to go over to the OpenLab, and I have to log in. And I'm going to create a new post. And so for the category, this one is user testing. And I'll say my user testing feedback. And so I just want to show a few things. You don't have to show all of the feedback you got. You might have gotten some feedback that wasn't very conclusive. Like, you know, for the question I had, if not, why not? Nobody responded to this. So I don't really need to talk about that unless it's interesting. But I can, you know, post these images and then write about them. So if I want to post one of these images, I can copy this, and it says chart copied to clipboard. And I should be able to paste this into an image. So if I open up like Paint or something, and let's see, can I go to paste? Oh. I usually do this on a Mac, and I can just paste it directly in there. Maybe this is just for Google. So let's just take a screenshot. So let's get rid of this. So I'll just take a screenshot. I'll use the snip tool. And you can use the same screenshotting tools on Mac that we've looked at in the documentation. So I'll do a new. Oh, not what I wanted to do. Okay, I have to switch the mode. Okay, there we go. So there's an image, and I want to save this. So I'm going to go to Save As. And so I'll go to my game project. I'll go to my documentation, and then this image I'll call playtime.png, and I'll put user testing at the beginning, so all these images will be next to each other. Okay, so now I have this image, and so now I can go over here and add an image. And so I'll go to my desktop, go to my game, documentation, user testing. Okay, so I'm not going to do this with all the different ones, but you can see how to do that. You can just capture each part of your data and then post that on your OpenLab post. So again, you don't have to post everything, but you can post the stuff that you think is interesting, that you want to comment on. And so I'll just comment here. I'll say users, you know, played the game evenly between less than 5 to 10, and more than 10 minutes. And then if you think that's good, you could say, you know, I'm happy with this result. Or if you think it needs improvement, you could say, you know, I think the game should take at least 5 minutes. So I want to make sure the gameplay is a bit longer. So we don't want to have people who are less than 5 minutes, but other than that, we're pretty happy with this. And then we can keep going through the rest of the feedback and take screenshots of stuff and comment on other things. So I won't do that with all of them because it's basically just the same process. But you can add as much of the data into your post as you want. And then when you're ready, let's preview this post. Okay, so that looks good. So then once you've added all the feedback that you want to comment on, you can publish the post. And ultimately what we want to do is learn about, the experience of the game so that we can improve it later. So that's a big part of the game design process, is getting feedback from users and then improving on that feedback. So all, big game design studios have a lot of in-house testers who are constantly playing the game and then telling the designers and developers what they think is working and what's not working. That type of, that's like a whole big aspect of game design, is user testing and that process. So it's a really important thing to do in your own process if you can find people to play your game and give you feedback. So that's what we'll do on Thursday. I'm going to stop here so you guys can continue working. If you are done with if you've created your game and you're ready to make a user testing survey, you can work on that. If you're still working on the game or any of the assignments, you can work on that as well. And let me know if you guys have